Hello, my name is Percival Plod, and welcome to the Naval Sports League. For our first time watchers, the Naval Sports League, or NSL for short, is the ultimate naval competition in the game of Holdfast Nations at War. League battles are simple. Two teams, each led by a single admiral, pilot five large capital ships and two small support boats, with the goal of sinking as many capital ships as they can within 35 minutes. Whoever sinks the most wins, and if there's a tide, we decide the overall winner by overall score. Teams consist of anywhere between 20 to 40 players, and the league provides mercenaries to balance out any number disparities between the teams. Every player in the league, be they a team player or a mercenary, is competing hard for the end of season awards and accolades. Every battle will take place on a randomly chosen map with randomly chosen wind direction. Both of these factors means that no two battles will ever be the same. The league lasts for 9 months, from late February to November, with a 3 games a month for you to enjoy. Once that main season is over, the top 3 teams of the league will duke it out to determine who wins the champion's crown. The NSL is a collection of Holdfast's most talented admirals, officers, and crews, and the tactical gameplay you'll see here is at the higher level than anything else this game has to offer. We, hosts and co-hosts, will be here for the entire battle to help you understand the decisions and strategies you'll see play out in the NSL Coliseum. So, without further ado, let's get to the pre-game coverage. So, joining me today will be the lovely representative from the SCP-38, their admiral, and a very close friend, Muffin Top Scout. How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty good, and thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm excited for this. It's going to be a good match. So we might as well introduce the teams while we're here today, right? So let's go to the league standings before anything else. Don't want to rush ahead. So, as you can see here, with the league standings, we have quite a extensive looking leaderboard here. Wouldn't you say, Muffin Top Scout?
It's pretty crystallized as of right now, as our season's nearly done, but there is still a little bit of for maneuvering, particularly against my own SCP and your Kraken.
Absolutely, yes. It's looking tight at the top, and it's looking tight at the bottom. To be fair, we have some sort of last few matches before the end of the competition. Obviously, that ends sort of towards November time, and that means there's still, as you said, room to maneuver. There's still time for those points differences to change, people to move up and down the standing. But it looks like things are starting to take shape for what we're looking at potentially to be the set in stone sort of positions for the end of the season. So looking at it, top of the leaderboard, Leviathans, who we're playing today, alongside Marines, bottom of the leaderboard. It's looking, the difference is pretty comparable, both in terms of points and everything else. But overall, I think with some of the upsets that we had a couple of weeks ago in regards to the Krakens moving up to second place, taking back second spot, it looks like we're maybe going into the season with some, with sort of stuff nearly set in stone. Would you say?
Yeah, we're really getting there. It'll look like the Leviathans, Kraken, and SCP-38 will be having a good kind of championship playoffs, but for the kind of I don't know if loser bracket would be kind of what to call
Best of the
between the Royal
rest. Come
Black
on, let's
Fleet.
go with that. How about
Yeah,
that?
between the Royal Black Fleet, Jackals, and Marines, it's really anyone's game. With me, I'm favoring Jackals. I'm favoring Jackals for that bracket. I think the way they play, they got it.
So, if we go to the player leaderboard here, after we finish off with the league standings, we have a look. Still looking pretty similar. We've had it for the last few weeks now, haven't we, Muffin Top? That it's been sort of set in stone. These guys are looking to be exceptionally strong across the board in most matches. These are the people we've been looking out for. They've been bringing their A game from, seems to be minute dot, and they haven't stopped. These guys are the ones we're looking at.
Right. So right now, Spicy, best player in the league, kind of hands down. He's showing up to every match as a merc. He's competing in every SCP event. He's a deadly front gunner, just a deadly overall player. And overall,
Second and oh,
Candles
go on.
coming in second. Sorry about that.
No, that's
But
okay.
Candles is once again another strong front gun, I believe, as well from your team.
Yes, yes, he plays in multitude of areas. We don't stick with just one front gun. But McCandless
Okay.
had a very good front gun recently. And obviously he just has a very consistent score around. We have quite a few of those in a lot of areas, but certainly looking very strong up there.
And then for the rest of them, Dan, relatively new to the league,
Yeah,
he's
very
coming
new.
in pretty strong. He's showing himself, showing SCP that, hey, I'm coming in spicy, you better watch out. And then we finally are ending it off with Shadow and Scorrigan. Scorrigan has, I believe he's been fighting for that spot, in a sense, fifth place. He's been off and on
Yes.
over
Yes,
the league.
Corrigan
So.
has been certainly struggling. Not struggling, maybe is the right word, but he's been definitely fighting for. I know he was higher for quite a bit of time, but he's slowed down a little bit. He's taking his time, but hopefully when he comes back in and we get some more matches under the Kraken's belt this season, certainly we can definitely get those points up there. But I suppose the one to look for today is Shadow. Obviously, the only member of the Leviathans on the top leaderboard today. How do you think he's going to do today in regards to the match that we've got coming up in a minute?
I mean, I can see him getting a lot of points this round. Every time I've played with him, he's extremely competent. You can assign him virtually anywhere. So I think he'll have a really good match today. But Spicy is here as well, so he'll be looking to make sure he doesn't get that many points.
True. So why don't we go into the side by sides here today? So obviously we have the looks of Marines, who are the underdogs coming into this. I think that is pretty fair to say. They've had, I'd say, a season of restructuring. They've had, they had a time that they've had to rebuild. They've brought back, a very strong foundation. I think Caron's has been the admiral for quite some time now, in just making sure that they have consistency. Um, and obviously coming up against still a very undefeated team. This is, a pretty, harsh match to come in for with Leviathans. Obviously led by Lemerck this time. He's back at the helm. The good old, Pirate King of X, certainly up there in everything. How do you think the Marines' top players are gonna change the match today for us?
Well, it'll be a little difficult to see, so I kind of want to give most of my thoughts when the round starts up, so that when both formations are moving out, so we can just talk about that some more. But from the Marines, if I remember right, those three are all captains.
Yes.
Uh,
So with Bjornsson, Dumbbell, and Count Chocula, definitely I think players that can play in multiple positions.
mhm.
Very strong. We all know them as players that are game changers in their own right in certain ways. Maybe to the extent that they have changed the game, entirely. But certainly, if you are if I look at Bjornsson or Dumbbell or even Count Chocula, if there is someone who can change a game with swivels, taking out 2 or 3 crew members, leaving them a 30-second respawn timer, those would be in some of my picks for it as well. And obviously, we've got
Yeah,
to watch out for Vex. Um,
right. And to kind of play off that, I think we should transition over to map preview because I think what I'm going to bring up when you see Bjornsson and Dumbbell is as captaining getting points, it is ship positioning. And in this upcoming match, that will be key.
Yes, absolutely. We still haven't gone over the Leviathans though. Still, obviously, with this matchup, it is an all-time matchup of a 1-0 to Leviathans, and with the likes of, as we've already noted, Shadow, Public Dickens, and Paxes, top players on their guys. We've got great cannoneers across the board. All of these people in their own right. They also have, the added, I guess, utility of being able to be put on gunboats, which we will probably see a lot of today. I think that's going to be a very key contention point in this match, with the likes of Paxes also being, probably one of the most well-known carpenters, I think, in all of naval, let alone the NSL itself, in the whole of Holdfast.
I think the
And
Jackals
come
would want to argue that point, but I
they
agree.
might want to, but yes, absolutely. I think definitely some of the ones that I would say, if I think Carpenter immediately, Pax is going to be there for me. And obviously we have ones to watch out for in terms of Leviathans today is Blackfriar. Certainly someone who I would say is one of those, when you look at them, it's going to be hiding under the radar because X has a lot of talent. The Leviathans have talent across the board, but I think Blackfire recently, with his scores, with him coming into matches and everything like that, I think he's been doing something in regards to just a little bit above some of his compatriots, and that's a hard thing to do, especially within, as I say, talent such as the Leviathans. It's certainly going to be something to keep an eye on for today. So, take it
Back
away
over
from
to map
your
preview, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, where in your opinion do you think Leviathans are gonna be the strongest possible position to win this one? You were telling me beforehand that you think this one's gonna be Leviathans in the bag.
Right. So Leviathans, as you said, they're good all rounders. They understand the game. They're probably the most professional in the series.
Oh.
And overall, okay,
Yeah, I know,
it,
I know. I'm gonna
there's
give you
little
some
bits there,
secret.
but overall, when it comes to mechanics, when it comes to this game, comes to the maps, they've always shown that they have a good understanding. Now, for let's say the Marines, though, I think for this map, what's key for them is going to be fleet positioning.
Yes. I think positioning is going to be the most important. The whole match, if I'm honest with you, I think it's one of those maps where I think they have been caught out before, specifically against you guys as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this was the first map or the first match of the league was us
Yes.
against them on this map with a slightly favorable wind.
And we do have, was it the map today being a southerly wind, which means everyone is going to be wanting to come down towards the side of the map facing us. They want to be going mostly for if you're on the Leviathans, they potentially could be going through on the right side direction, going south, or Marines the left side. That's where the wind is going to be most favorable. They're going to be the quickest. So don't be surprised if we see people just go straight in for an engagement. I don't think it's going to be that way, but I think the Marines, if they want to win this match, which I think they could do if they maybe follow some of these things, is that they want to get in close. Leviathans love to keep people at range. They love to shoot at people. And definitely, if the Marines are going to win this, they want to try and cut that advantage. Get in close, because once you get in that close position, that range, cannonballs just hit. You know what I mean? 500
Right,
meters, a lot harder to hit with them. But if you get into that, 400, 300-meter range, cannonballs just generally hit. And if you manage to get some lucky hits on some of those cannons, things are going to pop. And especially if you can get some crews to board Leviathans, they're great at counterboarding, but if you get enough people there, no one's going to have a chance, and you can maybe disrupt some of the fleet movements that they want to do.
right. And but I do think the key part of this battle will be which team decides to cross to the other side first, and if they fully commit to it. So,
Yes. Looking at the actual map here, we can see a lot of concentration is going to be on when the teams are about to cross. And I think I was saying to you before this match, Muffin, is that when we get to this point, when you're going to make a maneuver, when you make that decision, there is a point of no return. And if one side, when we see that point of no return, can counter that in such a way, because a lot of these points, if you want to cross over, you're sacrificing mobility. There are choke points all over this map, and the wind is neutral, which means there should be no excuses, I think, from my perspective, to not get in and make this a bloodbath. My personal opinion. I don't know about you.
I think it'll be whichever team goes in, it'll be a bloodbath, but the key thing will be pushing through that choke point, pushing through that initial bloodbath, and then maneuvering to a position where, you counter it or you return in kind. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. So match is starting now. Ships alive. We can start to see Leviathans seem to be coming out with a little bit more, I guess, purposeness. They seem to be going ahead with sails already ahead, already up.
well, as a
Uh,
reminder, real quick, let's remind everyone. So the
yes,
Leviathans today are in the yellow ships or British ships. So all yellow ships that you see on the map, that's Leviathans with their mercenaries. Marines today are the green ships, French.
absolutely.
So,
French side, absolutely. And we can see Leviathans seem to be taking their sails tacking towards the northern edge of the map. So it means they're sacrificing their speed to try and get some extra, maybe save that for another day. We talked about that, I think, in plenty of previous matches. If you go back and look through the catalogue with all our different hosts and everything, is that saving your speed can be a momentous advantage coming into this.
oh yeah,
It's a way that you can take the slower edge to start with, and then you can then use that and transition that to when you want to turn in and get that extra boost, that extra momentum. And I think it looks like now that the Marines are starting to get the same idea. They're reforming, they're getting a nice position. It looks like they're sending out the gunboats from both sides. Um, do we have any information on whether they have rocket boats in any of these on the top there, Muffin?
It doesn't
Can you
look
see that for me?
like any rocket boats are coming out on my screen. Yeah, I'm seeing the traditional gunboat sails, and what's probably happening is what you see with gunboats is they can be used early on as kind of ground takers. As both fleets are maneuvering against the wind. Something I wanted to bring up is it's not just that speed disadvantage for positioning, but it's also for you know when the dive what I call it the dive happens when you turn with the
Yes.
wind to catch the speed and make your ultimate play. You want map space to do that. And it just so happens that always heading towards, heading into the wind, it's just how it goes. So
Interesting thing it looks like here. I wasn't sure whether it's going to happen, but it looks like on our green ships here for the Marines, they seem to be holding some ships back. I don't know if they're making a turn, and it looks like it's taking a bit of time or whatever. But some of those fleets still not in position. On the Marine side there, and it's just like to keep in mind. Whereas
oof.
Leviathans seem to be still having a nice. They've got the gunboats ready at the islands. They've got good vantage point. They can see whether the Marines have sent out their gunboats very soon. It looks like there might be an engagement very shortly in regards to that. While they seem to be still, as I say, as you were saying earlier, it's about taking territory. I think with this map in particular.
Yeah, but the Marines, this may be a purely defensive mindset from them. I'm above their fleet right now and seeing how their ships are kind of trying to maneuver, and I'm wondering if they're sacrificing territory to just fight on this side of the map and just say, "Hey, X, you come at us. You come at us. We don't care if you turn if you turn south, turn right, from
Yes.
the podium as soon as you come in and try to get behind us. We're just gonna fight it out over here on our side of
Yeah.
the map." And that is a strategy because if you look at their spawn, not all their boats deployed. The general rule is only 2 boats are allowed to be, used at any one time. So as soon as a boat is
Absolutely.
sunk, they have to get another one. And we've seen teams before where they think having a fast rotation of their boats, they think can help. And it's a strategy with mixed results, but it is a valid strategy of, hey, I want my boats to be really involved in this fight as compared to X. Ooh, I see a first shot. I see a first shot. First shot's
Oh.
going to the gunboats, middle of the map.
Exciting. And as just a little bit on that moment as well, as we can see, it looks like I don't know whether it's Leviathans they're going to be going straight through the middle of those two top islands there, or if they're going to skirt around the outside. Depends directly on how bad the wind is going to be for them. But certainly looks like, as we say earlier, when we have the Marines holding, it could be a chance for them to trying to see what Lemerck's in particular metal here will be today as an admiral, as he's sort of coming back into it, isn't he? He's had a couple of weeks off coming back into this match.
Yeah, he's been working with his other admirals, making sure that they get the experience they need. As it's always good to have backup admirals. That's something that I'm looking for on the SCP side, and I'm sure you have at least 2 other admirals, or at least at one time you did.
Yes, what we have within the Krakens, I think we trying to switch out as much as possible to make sure everyone gets as much game time. I think in total we have at least maybe four at the forefront, with potentially five or six that could be out there if needs be. Um, that's not that makes it difficult because you've got to try and arrange your crews and your ships together. But certainly, I don't envy people who have to try and manage that many. It's a lot of different
Mhm.
heads to try and keep on at one point. Um, it looks like, as I was saying earlier, that the Leviathans are looking to take the entirety of the map. They're going straight upwards. Why do you think they would do that then rather than going straight through? Do you think it's that, as I was saying earlier, about being a choke point, don't want to take it, it's too risky, or
Um, I think it's mainly the positioning. It's mainly just the positioning because the Marines are allowing them to do this. And that's the other key thing is the Marines are allowing them to come forward and take territory. And so they are able to use their plan of, okay, we're going to get to this podium. And the main problem here is they can just cut the T, or what it's called, cutting the T, cutting in front of the enemy fleet with all their
I,
cannons firing at that lead 8 gun, even the 13 gun, before, the Marines can do anything.
I
You
would
can
like
kind
to
of see
interrupt you just a
yeah,
tiny bit. There seems to be quite a bit of a skirmish going on in those islands as Gunner has taken 3 crew members off of one of those first RM and
yeah. I'm zooming in on
Marine
it right
boats.
now,
Yeah, you get
and
in there and have a look at that because it seems to
it
be that we already have some of the first blood, 3 kills. And it looks like what to be 1 swivel
yeah.
shot as those
It's a 2v1, and that I'm trying to
a
see
2v1.
why. Yeah, 2 X gunboat, or 2 Leviathan gunboats versus 1 Marine, and they're just hammering it right now. It's
Do we see where the other friendly Marine boat is? Is it
I'm
holding
zooming
back?
out. It was behind. Here it comes. It's trying to sneak in at an angle. I think
Ah, I
it's
see.
trying to come in for some
And it
shots in
looks
the
like they've
back
got one
if
of
the
their own back
gunboats.
there.
Yeah, maybe this was trying to be a trap. Try to trap, come get their gunboats out, trap them. But
We start to
it
see
does.
movement now from the Marines' fleet as 2 Leviathans, 8 guns have taken ahead and gone much quicker, and the rest of the fleet they split the fleet a little bit here. We can start to see the Marines maybe starting to take some action. They probably saw the fact that they could have their T crossed, and they don't want to have that as as a big factor coming into this. Why is that so? Why is that if we for those who are new at home, Muffin? Why is having your T crossed one of the most dangerous things in the NSL and naval in
Well,
itself?
well, in naval history with these type of ships, if you zoom in on them, if we ever get the chance to, for the most part,
Oh,
all the cannons are on the left or right hand side of a ship. And yeah, I just saw that
yes,
the first gunboat does go down. So
that is
crossing
a
a
Marine
T
gunboat loss.
allows a ship to, in a sense, if you're in front of the enemy ship, doesn't have any cannons to fire on you, but you can bring all one side of your cannons on down on them, and it's also called raking fire. So your cannonball will travel down the length of the ship,
And that is the second
doing a
gunboat
lot of
loss.
damage.
Yes, absolutely. And not to mention also just the fact that you're kind of helpless while you do it. Unless you're on the 13 gun here specifically, that's the only gun that you really have that can shoot in I wouldn't say all directions, but most directions.
But take a
And
look now at the Marine fleet. So this is what we mean by kind of crossing the T. The X ships ran forward, but they didn't get into a position in time to where they could bring their cannons to bear. And so they got their T crossed a little bit. The 13 gun and that rear 8, or that 8 right behind it, can punish them without the worry of getting any damage in return. And the 13 guns cannons are quite large. However, if you look at the rest of the enemy X fleet, they're moving into a position. That 13 guns getting closer. And what you don't want to have happen is have your line either cross from the front or from the rear, and that might be what's about to happen. Because
so the interesting thing that we have here is that Leviathans, as I was saying earlier, have stacked the wind in their favor. They can
oh
go
yeah,
down, they can come in and make a left turn, or in this case, if we're going nautical terms, a port turn at any point in time and try and get behind the Marines line here. Now the interesting thing that I'm seeing from the Marines is that the Leviathans are having their gunboats push forward now to get extra shots with the shots in rotation on that 13. That 13 is now taking some fire, not a lot, but some. And you can notice that back on the Leviathan's team here, they have no one in range at any point firing back. The only ships that seem to be firing back at the moment is the Marines 13, and they seem to be focusing a lot more on these 8 guns. There is a clear staggering of the line between the 8 gun line, the 4 yellow hulled ships that are ahead of the much bigger ship that is back out the way, and it's using the increased range of those cannons, those 9 pounders, to cause a lot of extra damage. While those gunboats are charging, they smell blood.
yeah, because gunboats are they're like a hidden threat. they can do a lot of good damage, and you can be pretty accurate with them. So you can snipe cannons. Ooh, like what we just saw
That
from
was a
the
yes.
friendly or from the French 13. Some probably two cannon detonations there. I'm going to zoom in on it. That was multiple cannon detonations. Yeah,
If
yeah.
we look
There.
at the health here, if we look at the health here of the 13 gun for the Marines, it is taking a lot of concentrated fire here, and we don't have a lot of the Marine ships firing back. They are not in angle to fire back in a lot of ways. The Marines ships have the Marine 13 gun is going to go down here from just
Well, we're
sheer
getting
overloading
some.
fire.
The they are boarding the Leviathans are boarding the 13 gun. They use their gunboats as a small boarding crew, and they are fighting it out on that ship. Ooh, yeah. So this is
And they
what.
still haven't lost one yet. They still haven't lost one. It's just gone down now. That one they've sacrificed one small gunboat to potentially have their whole fleet. And here you go. You see Leviathans. They're using that wind now, that spare wind, to come in and start pushing the back of this fleet, where those Marine gunboats are seem to be focusing on attacking the front half of the ship, while the 13
And
is
there
gone.
she goes. The 13 is down, and you will see this in many cases where what matters is focusing fire and having your ships move into position. And it did seem like the Marines for a second there did try. They did try to focus fire on the 13 because that is a priority target. However, it just wasn't enough. The the Marines 13 was not in a good position because it got focused down hard. And I agree, the Marine gunboats kind of just let the gunboats into their line and fight it
So
out. So
the Marines have lost their 13 gun. There now seems to be a lot of concentrating fire from the Leviathans on the particularly rearmost part of the Marines line here. How how do you think the Marines could pull this back? They still have a lot of healthy ships. How long that lasts, we don't know. But what would be, in your, I suppose, your opinion here? Because we've seen that the 13 gun from Leviathans is taking some damage. More of
mhm.
their 8 guns have taken more damage. But they still, I don't know how, but the Leviathans still have one of those gunboats up as well. One of those gunboats that went and
Oh,
suicidally charged against that 13
we
is
just
still
saw a
alive.
demasting from the lead 8 on X's. They just lost the mast, so I think
Oh, they
there
have as
was
well.
there was a boarding action from that gunboat, and that could help in the so ooh in that case the Marines might want to try to break away. Honestly,
Well,
try
the
to get
Marines,
into the islands. They might have
yes.
to sacrifice an 8 to shield them, but in a sense, you need to create a situation where you can focus down that 13 gun with as much firepower as possible. And
Well, the good news is for the Marines is that Leviathans have given up their wind advantage. They've tacked it for as long as they could. They've kept that in the back pocket. They have used it, and they have used it to snipe out one of those 13 guns. Right, the 13 gun for the Marines.
right,
The issue is now is that the Marines didn't use that wind that they had, and they have the opportunity now, if they wished, to try and sneak in behind nice and quietly around towards this island. They can turn left here if they really wanted to, and get behind most of the fleet that is currently arranged by the Leviathans. And if it was
yeah,
me, and I had nothing really left to lose, I'm not saying they have anything yet, but if it's me and I wanted to, and I wanted to cause some hurt, that 13 gun is not going to get very far if I wanted to cause that. But the health is still going down for these marine ships here.
right.
They look like they're
And
about to
you could
have
see
a
they're not really focusing down. It's unfortunate. They need to pick a target, no matter if it's an 8, the 13. They need to pick a target and focus it down. And I'm seeing a lot of like individual dueling. We're seeing cannons explode on both fleets. Mainly
yes.
on the Marine side, though, is like their ships uh, beat up some. There, I just saw another detonation, and
Another cannon there on the lead marine vessel
yeah,
there. It looks
I
like they're
do think
trying
the
to focus
Marines,
this rear guard for the
yeah.
Leviathans here right now,
But you see
where
that
they get
far 8, the far 8 closest to the wall, the Leviathan one.
yes.
That one needs to be negated in the sense of the Marines need to position their fleet so it takes longer for that 8 to rejoin the fight. They can turn this into a an advantage if they can regroup, focus fire, and then come in. You're seeing the
We
gunboats, they're focusing on the 13. They're trying to do whatever damage they can. They're being a nuisance. They're doing gunboaty things. But
Yes, it looks like one of the gunboats. Is that a marine gunboat that's charging onto the 13 there? Do I see
it
that currently?
looks
While
like
there's
it. I'm zooming in.
is the
It
other one behind
both
it as well?
Yeah, both gunboats are pretty much point blank, and it looks like counterboarding is kind of happening. They're throwing guys into the water.
Interesting.
Ooh,
And we do
it's
see
pretty.
right now, we see some of the marine ships. They are trying to get past this rear guard, a very strong rear guard that's been put in place. They're trying to get all angles on this Leviathan's 8 that it's been left to dry to hold the fleet. But you can see right now, as you were saying earlier, it's all about that positioning, and that 13 is staring down the head of that lead
Mhm.
Marines 8 gun, and there is going to be some painful repercussions for that choice. I feel,
Oh yeah,
as the first shot has landed. It's why I see.
this is where I tell a lot of my captains is, hey, when I give you an order to maneuver to begin an engagement, don't just think about that immediate engagement. Think about where the enemy fleet will move, where you will need to move to counter. It's not a very move here and then fight it out. It's a very, hey, we have to think about what is the best positioning of your ship to the enemy fleet, and so that we can counter it. Because
You're
if you're
just
looking, I think X is going in now. One of their eights is going to be. It looks like they're charging.
charging.
They're
Yeah, it looks
using
like they're
the
charging.
13 gun as like a covering fire. It's
Absolutely.
the 13 is in the best spot to just destroy the
I, I
remaining
will s-
ships.
I will say that those 8 gun or those gunboats that did charge did go down from the Marines. So they are down to one ship that seems to be dealt with by that ship that lost its mast. They are holding back, as you can see, and they are having a good shooting battle over there,
Yeah.
over on our right hand side there.
So that
But
ship does have to be careful.
absolutely.
There are rule conditions, but it looks like, yeah, that
And that is
well,
one of the Marine ships there. It was absolutely hammered. I think both of the ones that are on low health are actually at the islands trying to still deal with that still respectfully healthy Leviathan's 8 gun.
yeah, and this
That
is where
that
shot
rear guard.
calling is important, is like, hey, aim your you have to aim for those cannons, you have to aim for those sideboards, stuff like that. Ooh, you're seeing this 8 that's trapped on the island. It is getting raked by
It is
multiple ships. It is
Leviathan's combined fleet that is not currently handling off with the rest of those rocket boats now that will be coming out. They seem to be doing a lot of focusing fire. They have pretty much all angles except for the one in the middle, and they are just going to town. That's one of those 8 guns left for the Marines that is on literally a whisper of health. You could breathe on it and that thing will go down. It's still up, and it's been that way for some time. I don't know which one it is, but it looks like they are going to be getting an
pretty
engagement as
sure
that
it's the
rear
one
guard
that's
ship.
that's charging the 8 right now.
That
Yeah,
rear guard is going for it. They want blood here. They want to take that ship out on their own. Look at them, they're going against 2 ships. They've given up.
come on.
What
Come on.
they have given up their
We
tea.
have a boarding action. We have a boarding action on that lone Leviathan ship. I see Marine. Yep, I see Marines all over it. They're trying to take control of it. And the main thing here is they have to quickly kill the sails and
Oh,
just
and there's been a
oof.
demasting. There's been a demasting on one of the marine ships in the middle of the battle, and it looks like those 2 8 guns are moving in for the kill. And you still see the Leviathans have their 13. It is in the perfect position. That range, that distance
Mhm.
is just immaculate control there for keeping the distance and ensuring that there is just continual focusing fire. So when you're looking at a fleet as a whole, when do you direct your focusing fire? What's your, I suppose, what's your philosophy on it?
Well, you consider where your line is as compared to them. As we're watching the last couple minutes of this fight,
And there's another
looks
marine ship down.
yep.
Not the one I
eh,
expected to go down, but it has finally gone to a low health now.
what all matters is you pick a target and you try to pick the target that has them where most of your cannons can hit. So it looks like we are down to one more 8. The last surviving 8 from the Marines is
Taking a beating.
duking it out.
It has it's probably double gunning on both sides here. It's got 3 ships firing it down, and you can see those gunboats, those rocket boats, have done still a number on one of those Leviathan ships, but they have still kept all of their capital ships in this match. There is only left in regards to the Marines this
Oof.
final ship. This is a it was. I said coming into this, I expected a bloodbath. I didn't expect it to happen very close to the marine side of the map. I expected it more towards the middle, but extraordinary scenes. I feel like it's been a very tight battle in regards to composure from the Leviathans here. It has
Oh
been.
yeah.
What would you say if we look at this from a different perspective? If you were to change anything in regards to your preparedness for this battle, what would you say that would be your difference?
From the perspective of the Marines or from the
Yes,
Leviathan?
yeah, as a whole, if you were the Marines.
Yeah, if I was the Marines, with the plan that it seemed like they wanted to do to keep that idea, I think they should have gone to the podium, Emperor's podium, to the wall basically, and
Yeah,
fought it up there by the islands. That way, there's less room to maneuver on for both sides and see if you could get X into a crossfire. I'm watching that Marine
that
vessel's
lead
going down
ship,
hard, but everything is
and
shooting, and
it's
there it
still up.
goes.
Atticus has been killed by Public Dickens, and Shadow kills Public Dickens in return. Clearly, there's been a boarding.
A little
This seems to
bit,
be a
a little
massive
bit.
boarding. But that Leviathan's 13 gun is trying to turn, trying to get the rotation on this ship. It looks like the Leviathans are sending in their gunboats to finish off the job, and that
Yep,
will
there we go.
be Leviathan's victory. And the score differential is 23,300. No, it's about 23,200 or something. That was a complete wipeout.
Yeah,
Every ship gone from the Marines, unfortunately, in that one. But I still think a very valiantly fought battle, nonetheless.
it was. The Marines, they fought it to the last, and that's what you want to see in these fights is every ship just fighting it out as hard as they can and
So,
doing everything they can.
So, what would you say was the killer moment from the Leviathans here today? What was the one maneuver from that made this swing from what seemed to be a relatively even battle? But all teams were coming in. To there was a good brawl in the middle of the fight with the gunboats. To what then just turned into a complete and utter it seems to be a whitewash. I don't know how to put it otherwise. All ships were gone from the Marines here.
I think the key point was when their line, they split up their line. They had 2 8s, and the rest of their fleet came in. But I think the key moment was when they just remade their line right there by the islands, and then just punished the Marines because they couldn't really maneuver.
And sometimes there is that I suppose opposition to when you I suppose with the Marines they took the decision not to move. They chose the decision not to do too much. Once they got into that position they wanted to be in, they wanted to hold that line. I suppose perhaps maybe I wouldn't say a flaw, but a lacking from the tactic here was that they didn't move for most part of the map when they didn't turn quickly enough or anything like that. They opted not to move, which left the Leviathans to just do really what kind they wanted once they got that wind.
Yeah, what we've seen with these defensive thought or kind of plans and ideas, the key factor is the wind. Once again, whether it be in a maneuvering fight or a defensive fight, what matters is the wind. So playing a defensive game, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just what do you plan on doing with your ships? How do you plan on maneuvering your ships to catch the wind to keep fighting? And I, I think the problem would be if the Marines had positioned like they had maneuvered into that spot, but they had turned around so that they were with the wind, I think we would have seen a different type of fight today.
Absolutely. I feel that is a very adequate assessment. So we should be having with us joining both the both admirals from both sides. We should hopefully be having Chirons from the Marines, and we should be having Lemerc hopefully from the Leviathan to come along. and have a sort of a post game interview with us here.
Yeah, you got to give
How?
everyone a minute or two because people they gotta they gotta say good game. You all
Yes,
did well. You
absolutely.
fought hard. Thank you, mercenaries, because once again there was a good number of mercenaries that are representatives of all the teams playing. That they do their bit. They fight hard. They do as they're told, and they can make a difference in some fights. So
Oh,
that-
absolutely. I think I wouldn't. I'd like to say that probably some of our best matches that we've had have come from best results have come from having our Marines around to and mercenaries to come around to give us a helping hand. I think a lot of teams can thank that to a lot of our things, and it's a good way that the league is set up, hopefully, to try and help some of those imbalances in terms of manpower that we sometimes see. So I do believe we have got our winning admiral here today, Lamerck, but we will be waiting to see if we have a representative from the Marines to come along very shortly to come on and have a chat with us. Um, but I suppose to say I can't. I think we can't all fail to see that this was a match that was entertaining. It had a lot from start to finish in terms of back action. We had a lot of action. It wasn't necessarily something that was slow paced in any way, shape, or form today, was it, Muffin Top Scout?
right. But you'll get used to this for this type of fight. You'll notice that matches will always start off really slow as both fleets begin maneuvering, but then once the fight starts, it gets bloodied, it gets dangerous, it gets explosions everywhere real quick.
And the decks get filled with the blood of enemies and friendlies all the time, and cannonball shrapnel and everything else that comes in between. Um, do we have any notes currently that we want to bring up in regards to this match, Muffin Top? I feel that we have, from my opinion at least. Um, I think we look at potentially what was. I mean, the points difference today was probably one of the highest that we've seen. I know we in the Krakens have had a tough points difference against the Leviathans before, but I think this was one of the higher ones we've had up there as well today across the NSL
Yeah,
history.
yeah, it was. Oof. Yeah, when it comes for point values, yeah, X is gonna they're dominating the points value score. So now we just gotta knock away at those wins. That's what we
Yes,
got to do. That's how we got to
absolutely.
beat them. But
Um,
it looks like Lamerck is here with us, so let's get him in. Let's get him into this conversation. Let's talk about what happened on the X side or the Leviathan side of battle today. So Lamerck, how's it going?
Feeling pretty good.
Well, it this was a pretty fun match to fight. Were you eye in the sky or were you on one of the ships?
No, you'll always find me on the 13 gun.
All right, yeah, yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I used to think that way too, but I had a couple captains say, "Hey, let's try this." So, I'm always willing to see how everyone plays slightly different. Were you captaining the 13 or maneuvering with it or just on it to give orders?
I was captaining. I'm,
Okay, okay, okay.
first and foremost, I love to captain. It's my favorite thing to do in
Yeah.
this game, so I'm definitely steering the ship.
Yeah, okay. That's
and
pretty good. So, step us through the kind of beginning part of the fight. What was your thoughts going in, and what was your main idea at the beginning of the match before the ships really kind of started maneuvering, and then once they got to the podium part?
Yeah. So we had two ideas going in, and it was either kind of head towards the center, just kind of straight at them, and see what happened between those, between those islands, and then the other alternative, which we thought was probably the most likely, was just go against the wind. Go against the wind. It's kind of a tried and true strategy. Bank the wind for later, especially considering the fact that we thought that they would do something similar. Um, and so, I didn't have a formulated plan. I had some ideas. I'd even told you guys that there were some ideas that we were thinking about. But I don't really know what call I'm going to make until I see that game start, and I just kind of let my gut take me from there. And so, gut said, play it safe for right now. Go against the wind, and so that's what we did. Um, from that point, we saw that they seemed to be going against the wind, but then they sort of just slowed down, um, and they stopped their fleet, and that really ironed in the decision that we had made because it allowed us to get the wind and have a really they gave us a lot of space to get around these
Mhm.
islands and start our attack. Um, you could see from our fairly messy formation as we went around that end of that furthest island that we had two ships that I was going to try and just throw at the 13 gun. I was going to throw those two ships like beeline charge at the first 8 gun and the first 13 gun. As they moved in, the Marines did what they absolutely should have done, which is shift their line to fire at those ships. And then we adjusted from there. Because we had such good wind, we had the opportunity to quickly adjust and then just bring our entire line in, slam into their 13 gun, sink the 13 gun, and then use that wind that we had banked to whip around behind their fleet. We then whipped around behind their fleet, stopped our fleet there while they were all staggered or blocking one another, put some hurt into it. Then we sacrificed our rearmost 8 gun, swung the rest of the fleet around, and got long range shots while they tried to eliminate that bait that we left them. And that really is kind of the story of what we saw today.
I would argue that sacrifice might be a hard word to use there. You did not lose any capital ships today.
No, and I
It
have to
was more like
really
leaving a, I suppose, cookies out for Father Christmas. He comes along and then you just drop a net over the top of him here.
Yeah, it seems like I was very happy. That was Treehouse. Captain Treehouse is our sacrificial lamb. He always somehow gets sacrificed. He's always the guy. Somehow he finds himself at the rear of the line. We don't really plan who's going to be. I usually plan who's at the front of the line. I like to put Atticus, one of my admirals, at the front of the line. He's my most experienced captain, and so I like to have him lead formations. But who ends up at the end is kind of up to whatever, and it always ends up being Treehouse. And he always does such a good job when we try to sacrifice him. And today, he and his crew not only did they accept their fate, uh, they apparently they took out an entire enemy's broadside. Like they destroyed every ship on one of the every cannon on one of the ships, and then got the opportunity to move on to the next one. So it really it warms my heart to see X crew really show why we believe that we are a crew that is a cut above. And it is that kind of action in that kind of fire, in that kind of hopeless situation that makes me really proud of my crew. When I put them into those horrific situations, they come out on top, and couldn't be prouder of that crew specifically.
So, from your perspective, I suppose, in this match, obviously you saw the Marines were taking I suppose, slow, if not, giving you as much space as you possibly wanted. What is it that you look for in terms of using space? Because it's not the first time you've done this in the NSL. What is your, I suppose, philosophy when it comes to managing the space of a map? Because you had all of it pretty much, apart from parts of their spawn, which even then you looked like you wanted to take at some points. Why is space so important in regards to a naval battle in the NSL?
That's a great question. It's a great question. So, space is freedom. Uh, when you have the ability to maneuver your fleet and you are not under pressure, you have the opportunity to think and to position your ships where you want them to be. I understand what their thought process here was today. Their thought process was they wanted to stay close to their gunboat spawn area, form a strong defensive line, hit us as we come in, and as we come around one of these islands or another, get that. I think they're not here to represent themselves. I don't think they're sending a representative, which is unfortunate. We've tried to get one from them, but nonetheless, I think to give them a loving critique of what I think their strategy was, and I would have liked them to have that defensive battle line just a little bit closer to the islands, because we had the space to come around that island and reform ourselves. We probably had like 200 meters of space between coming around that island and getting into their effective range. If they had done that line closer to the islands, I would have had to be very afraid of going around the islands. They also
the wall potentially,
yes,
they should have been
have to come
facing
towards the
south as
islands.
well. I think that was
yeah.
their probably. I liked their idea of, you know what, the Leviathan of NSL is bearing down, is coming your way. It is a mindset. You can't deny it, Leberk. There is a
Turtle shell.
mindset out there of an undefeated team. Everyone's going to be concerned. So I do think while playing defensively like that probably, surrenders a lot, as you said, territory, and it gets you into a mind. I think if they had turned their ships around, formed that line, turned it around facing south, and kind of, I guess, took you to the wall or took you to the islands even, so that forcing your line to kind of get some weird angles as you're maneuvering. Yeah, that would have been that's the hope and the dream and what we want to see. But yeah, I think they were just saying, hey, all right, X, come at us. We're gonna blast you for as long as we can.
Yeah, I mean, to their credit, they bravely challenged us, to come at them. And, that's not an invitation I will ever, ever deny. I will always go towards the enemy and I will always try to see if I can't outshoot them. I love to give my crew the glory. And if we can get positioning advantages, of course, I would love to do that too. But if I see an enemy that says square up, I'm going to square up. I think your critique is these things can go multiple different ways. So, for example, if we're talking about what you wanted to say, you wanted them to go south, right? Which is to say, I believe, have the wind with from go to spawn, like head north and then flip around towards the south, basically.
Yeah,
Because the issue that they had is that as we are passing them, we have the wind and can swing around from behind them. As they are passing us, they have no wind and no ability to change that. That line and that direction that they have, not quickly at least. Um,
right.
that said, if they turned south, I'll be honest with you, I would have just cut behind them. I would have just gone, I guess south, like east, whatever. I would have
Yeah.
gone
Yeah, yeah,
behind them. I would have cut behind their line, right, and then tried to hit them from the rear, and then they would have had to escape south. So I would have put pressure on whatever side they showed me. The problem is any stationary enemy gives you the opportunity, if they are not immediately threatening you through an island gap that makes you scared to go through that island gap, then you have the time to find out what part of that, what side or the other is the weakest side, and then bum rush it. And so, again, for me, I think my major feeling of freedom comes from the fact that they didn't set up that defensive line closer to where I would be coming around the island. And if they
Mm.
had done that, if
mhm,
they had, because they, I mean, I telegraphed it pretty early where I was going. We did, I think maybe you saw it in the beginning. There was like okay, that leftmost island, from my perspective, the leftmost island. We did kind of head towards the
Yeah.
middle of it. We didn't want to let them know whether we were going to the left or the right of that island until the very
Yeah.
end. So we did try. We're always trying to position our approach to an enemy to keep things ambiguous, not sure which direction we're going to go for our attack, so that they can't firmly set up their defense. That said, they seem to set up their defense later than I would have expected, to the point where I was going to have my front ships charge the front of their fleet. And maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they wanted to bait my confidence, in which case they damn near did it. Um, so,
Well, you got to
there's so many
consider that
factors.
when I when I saw the situation where your two lead eight started
Mhm.
creating a gap, any admiral has to think like, oh, do I maneuver to focus down those two, or I see the other three coming in? Do we ignore the two to focus on the scarier, the
Yeah.
13 that's coming in? And
I
yeah,
think
it
that
is. It's something you always have to consider.
I
Is
think that depends if they're going to make it easier for you to ignore them or not. And as
sure.
Lemert said, I don't think they were going to. I think they were going to just go straight in as much as possible. I mean, we've seen it before from Leviathans. They are not afraid to send a ship to knock another ship out the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
um,
Not at all.
so I do have another question. A little bit out of the blue, I suppose, again, for this one. It's a first that I've seen, is that you have sent your gunboats in to harass a 13 gun. Almost so obviously after they had the initial engagement towards the middle of the islands and the Marines tragically lost their first two gunboats. Once you got into position and your guys didn't have necessarily the full rotation of all your guns yet as you were making your strong push with the wind, you sent your two gunboats to go directly at the enemy 13, the Marines 13 here, and seemingly board them. Was that just cause confusion, delay? This is not a usual strategy that we've seen the Leviathans employ. It's too, I suppose, how I would put it,
Messy,
too
Aggressive.
out there. Yes,
dangerous. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it
but it
was.
did come out on top of it in some regards. You only lost one of those boats straight away in
Yes,
that engagement.
that's true.
Talk to me about that.
So, um, we had a conversation. One of our lieutenants, Scott, great gunboater, had had pitched the idea of putting all of our um, carpenters on a gunboat and boarding them. Which, by the way, I think they ended up trying to do that in the
Yes.
beginning of the game. We debated it hotly before the battle started, and this is like we're talking like 5 minutes before the battle starts. And in the end, I sent one of my reserve crew from the 13 gun over to them as a carpenter, and I said to them, basically, your order is you are to charge the enemy fleet when we are engaged with them and they cannot pay attention to you as much as they'd like to. That is not how it really ended up happening. I ended up throwing them at the enemy to sacrifice them to draw some fire away from our fleet as our fleet was setting up. And they, by just their luck and skill, made it to the 13 gun. That was the target. And so, they, first of all, heroic, absolutely heroic on their part. But the goal there was 90% of it was to just give them something shiny to shoot at that wasn't my ships, like my capital ships, my large ships, and the 10% goal was like a Hail Mary to board the 13. It is something we had really talked about and really wanted to do. Boarding was something I wanted to put some people on some ships today. I didn't get to put as many people as I liked on the ships, but there is no question that they
Well,
did a
that's what Treehouse
spectacular
did
job.
when we were watching him.
Yes,
Treehouse
yes.
did that.
Yeah, he sure did. He sure did. So yeah, another shout out to our gunboat crews who, best in the business as far as I'm concerned. They do things that I don't even think they can do the things that I asked them to do, and they keep surprising me by doing them. So shout out to Gunner, Scott, all sorts of all sorts of crew that are on those. I'm missing a ton of people, and I'll name check you all, but you guys, they did a great job, and they're always pushing the boundaries of what gunboats can do.
And I will say, obviously, commiserations for the loss here for the Marines. I think they gave a very difficult battle for you. They didn't go down easily. They certainly made sure you worked for it. And although it was a clean, completely wipe the fleet off the map face scenario here today, they made sure that you had to be in the right positions for the right time. I think there was like Muffin was talking about the entire game here was that your positioning had to be very strong throughout. And with that 13 gun in particular, along with a lot of your 8 guns, it seemed to be a point where you guys were never like in doubt on who you were focusing. If anyone looks back, you can see the pinpoint accuracy fire going into one specific ship all the time. It's something that was brought up a lot here by Muffin. How do you guys get about doing that? What's your, I guess, philosophy around that as well in regards to the league?
It's something.
And matches.
It's something we practice a lot. We don't have formal trainings. We use our events as our trainings. So that means that like 5 times a week, we're out there practicing deck officering. Deck officering is the secret sauce. You get guys who understand where an enemy ship, they're watching the enemy ship, they're watching their cannons, they're watching the furniture on the ship, they're seeing where the weak spots are, they're seeing what has been destroyed and what hasn't been destroyed, and they're guiding their crew towards the spots on the ship that are going to net us the most HP loss from the enemy. And so the captains, we captains are in a call, in a different Discord call with the deck officers, and we're telling the deck officers where the crews go, and that information is seamlessly disseminated through the crews all at once. And we had Chompy was I think our new deck officer today. He did a great job. We have tons of veterans, guys like Supple, who was my deck officer today. He's a legend. And these guys just know. They know. You tell them what you want, they tell the crew exactly in a minute detail how to get there, and that's what you see. You'll see it switch all at once. So it's practice and skills.
Muffin, have you got anything else you would like to ask while we have Lemerc here before we look at ending our broadcast for this evening?
I guess looking at the schedule, your next match is against my own.
Yes.
SUPAA.
Waiting a long time to fight you guys.
Been a long time coming. We missed out on the preseason, and this, due to other complications in the schedule, this will be the first.
Yes.
So
I suppose, may I just interject here? Obviously, as you say here, your next match is against each other. What words of encouragement do you have for the next match for each of you? Let's start off with Lemerc. What words of encouragement do you have to a fellow admiral in 2 weeks' time?
I don't know that I've been particularly like reserved in my praise for the SCP team. They are like I think they're probably my favorite team out there. Of course, aside from my own, because they the growth journey and the arc that you guys have gone through from the end of the preseason until now has been nothing short of revolutionary as far as I'm concerned. So the praise that I can give you and sort of is to just continue to build on everything that you guys have accomplished over the season and the level of sort of professionalism and discipline that your fleet has. Your formations are incredible. Your cannoneers are great. Your captains are skilled and experienced. And you, as an admiral, Movatop, are really, really phenomenal. I mean, it is a neck and neck for second place here, and you can't really get a bigger compliment than that than to be neck and neck with a team like the Krakens, who are like old competitive veterans of the highest order. So I can only say that, you guys have every shot of winning this because, at the end of the day, with all of what we have here, all of these leaderboards and all of these, it doesn't. At the end of the day, you made it to the top half of the fleet standings, which means all you need is two wins, I guess, 2 wins, and if you get those 2 wins, forget about everything else. That's it. You take away the crown. So I believe you can do it. Absolutely.
And Muffin Top, what complimentary praises could you put upon your Admiral Lemerck, your opposition Admiral, in a couple weeks' time?
Well, I think when it comes to these competitions, you want these stories to develop. You want the powerhouse out there to maybe the nearly unbeatable team, that image which has kind of grown. And as I said I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I mean, when Lemerck here asked me, "Hey, do you think you're going to get third place?" It's like, well, maybe we can get third place, but I want to get 2 wins on X. And I think that's like the biggest compliment to give is that I am going to fight it out as hard as we can. And I expect Lemerck, because I believe you're admiraling for the rest of the season,
Correct.
I want all the stops pulled, or I think that's the right saying,
That's right.
basically, and just
You want
we'll
nothing hold
fight
back.
it out to the last ship, and that's what we want to see.
And now, obviously, we've had the compliments. One very nice, gentlemanly smack talk, starting with Lemerck. Come on.
Oh,
Come on, Lemerck. You've got to do it. That's what the people
I,
want to hear. They want to hear this.
God, a smack talk. I'm less
Yeah.
good at this part. Well, I intend to end the season undefeated.
Oh, okay. That's it. That's it. Just that statement there, I think alone is I mean, a very solid idea of where Lemerck's mind is going to be. Muffin Top, what do you have to rebut to that, of all things?
That when you get in range of my guns, you'll learn. You'll learn.
Oh, with that, folks, that will be the end of Game Week 24. Please do join us in, I think it is next week, with Game Week 25, where we will see the Jackals of the Baltic Sea versus the Royal Black Fleet. That's going to be another barn burner. And after that, as we all know, we've just teased it here. We have potentially a very, very strong clashing coming up with Leviathans and the SCP on week 26. These are matches you really don't want to miss, folks. Tune in same time next week, right here, right now, on the Naval Sports League. Thank you very much.